So Toronto stats are out, and I wanted to talk about a couple things that were surprising to me when looking at these numbers and what we've been seeing in the market as we've been going through July. I'm Michael Ouzas. I'm a realtor in the Greater Toronto Area, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on these numbers here in June and what you're expecting to see in July. If you ever want to book in a call with me, click on that first link in the description down below. So numbers for June came out, and there's a couple things that were really surprising. And the first one that stands out to me is in Toronto, price year over year is actually dead even, which I was pretty surprised to see the number 0% increase or decrease for the months of June. Let's jump into the charts and go through the Greater Toronto Area and then into Toronto proper and some of the charts to show where things were at the start of 2022 and what we've been seeing halfway through 2023. So let's start with the Greater Toronto Area market stats. Year over year, we're up 3.2% from the average sale price of June of 2022 and June of 2023. Active listings down about 12% from 16,000 last year to 14,000 this year. And number of sales up almost 17% or 16.5% from 6,400 last year to 7,400 this year. We can still see that we are well below 2020 and incredibly below 2021. In the condo corner, almost 26% up when it comes to the number of sales, but down 1% when it comes to average sale price. And if you look at Toronto proper, this is the number that stood out to me the most. 0% increase or decrease from June 2022 to June 2023. And that's pretty surprising because we did have 12% less active listings and 70% more sales. Now that sales number is pretty in line with where things were in 2020. And if you remember 2020, things were pretty much shut down when it came to June. 2021 was pretty notable because June was kind of where we started to see some optimism on things opening back up. And then in 2022, as we remember, this is when interest rates were creeping up. And then in July, we did get that hammer of 1% increase. So this is something that was talked about a lot in the news, how maybe another potential increase was coming. And there was a big hike in interest rates from March through June 2022. The other number that stands out is months of inventory under 2 months for both the Greater Toronto Area and the city of Toronto. Condo sale price was basically 0.1% down, so flat as well, and condo sales up 23% year over year. As we jump over to the Market Watch details, this compares the 416, which is Toronto proper, and the 905, which is the outer areas of Toronto. A detached home in the 416, you're looking at about just under $1.8 million. Semi-detached, just over 1.4 million. Townhouse, about just over $1 million. And condo apartment, about 770,000. For the 905, those numbers look like 1.45 for a detached, 1 million for a semi-detached, 960 for a townhouse, and 675 for a condo apartment. And that's where we get these average sale prices when it comes to the Greater Toronto Area. So if you are looking in Toronto proper and actually want a 416 address, it's definitely going to be more expensive than going to an area outside the city in the 905. And if we're looking at year over year change, 2.6% increase for a detached in Toronto, about 5% increase for a semi-detached, townhouses just under 1%, and condo apartments flat. This number really surprised me here. Year over year change for a detached outside of the city up 6.6% and semi-detached up almost 8%. Townhouses up 6% as well, and condo apartments down 2.7%. These are all averages, of course. Now, as a whole, in June 2023, it did perform better than 2022. We had more sales. We had about the same amount of listings. Active listings were down a little bit, but average price was up as a whole for the Greater Toronto Area. And in these last two boxes is listing days on market, property days on market, both showing quicker sales than June 2022. As we jump over to our monthly sales data, this is where we see is June and July to start to level things off. And the big drops happened from February through July for the most part, and then things trended pretty steadily throughout the rest of the year. Active listings started dropping significantly as we went through the course of the year, with the low being in December. Months of inventory leveled off somewhere around that high 2s to 3s and trended along as we got into February of 2023. Remember that the end of January is when they did that conditional pause on rates and things took off from there. That's when we start to see the price points increasing significantly. The average price of a property in January 2023, $1,038,000, and the average price in June of 2023 $1,182,000. That's about $150,000 difference of purchasing price. Days on market also in January were up in that 30 range and about half a month in June. If we use benchmark price, we could see as for detached market in the Greater Toronto Area, the high was February 2022. For townhouses in the Greater Toronto Area, March 2022, and condos were April 2022. As things trended along through the year, and remember July was that hammer of that 1%, things kind of just trended along throughout the rest of the year. Once we hit that pause in January, the trajectory just went up from there for all three property categories. Same thing when it comes to the city of Toronto, very similar story. February was a high for detached homes, May was a high for townhouses, and April the high for condos. The low for houses was in December 2022. The low for townhouses was also December 2022. And actually, surprisingly, the low for condos was February 2023. Things have been increasing since for all three property types. Most of the increases that we saw happen from January through May, and things have been treading along relatively steady. And as we get the July numbers, I'll be interested to see if things are flat, down, or up a little bit. I don't think we're going to see a huge jump from June through July of 2023. So let me hear your thoughts on the June 2023 numbers. And keep in mind, this is for half the year of 2023. It'll be really interesting to see how things trend as we move along here into July. We have seen now our second rate increase in a row. And when they pause rates in January, that's when we saw the market kind of take off again. So it'll be interesting to see if that second rate increase does what the Bank of Canada intends it to do. And that's to hopefully cool people's spending habits. And one thing I have seen in the city of Toronto is that restaurants are full. Every concert seems to be sold out. The Jays games are packed, and people seem to be enjoying their summer while also purchasing properties. So as we move along here into the depths of July and August, it'll be really interesting to see how things play out with that second increase and as we're in the summer market. I'm Michael Ouzas. Thanks for watching.